This is ORWO Wolfen NC400. It's a relatively new color emulsion from ORWO. From what I've gathered, this is an early batch that's being used to fund future R&D and to help dial in production. Not all that dissimilar to what ADOX is doing with their Color Mission film or Harman with their Phoenix film. It's nice to see actual new color film come out instead of just repackaged Kodak Aerocolor or Kodak Vision film. But to the flip side of that is the early returns can be a little rough. Right off the bat, these negatives don't look right, especially when you compare them to normal C41 film. This is some Portra 400, and it's got that classic orange mask, whereas this looks unwell. It's almost like the film has an iron deficiency and needs to see a doctor. But these are just the negatives. How are the scans? The colors seem to favor the greens and are a bit muted. It has its own look, but given the fact that it's a brand new, pretty much an experimental emulsion, it's looking pretty good. This film kind of reminds me of Lomo Metropolis, which shouldn't come as a surprise because this film was actually manufactured by Innovisco, who also make Lomo Metropolis. When you take a look at the negatives, yeah, they look kind of close. The base color is pretty similar in person, but on camera it looks like the Metropolis is a little more green. But the more noticeable thing for me is the color of the highlights. With the NC400 negatives, the highlights have this orangish color to it, whereas Metropolis, it's more dark brown. It's not really scientific, but it's also something I realized last second and didn't really have time to test. I don't think they're the same, but the similarities are worth mentioning, especially since they're both manufactured by the same company. Anyway, one of the complaints I've seen of this film was about the grain. It seems like it's too grainy for some people. Personally, I didn't have too many issues with the grain and I kind of felt left out. So I pushed it 3 stops. So yeah, these negatives look absolutely overcooked. And the scans? Yeah, equally as bad. If you thought it was grainy before, this is like real grown-up big boy grain. It's unapologetically aggressive. And if this grain offends you, you could always accidentally overexpose the crap out of it and you no longer have to deal with it. Surprisingly, it retains an okay amount of detail in the shadows. Not a whole lot, but more than I was expecting. The bigger issue is this green cast. Like I mentioned earlier, the film tends to skew towards the greens, which is manageable when developed normally. But when pushed 3 stops, it's much more prominent. Overall, it's a look, I guess. These negatives look bad, so much so I mistook it for bleach bypass, which looks like this. If you look at both of these negatives, you might think you'd get equally rough results, but surprisingly the bleach bypass shots came out looking alright. The shadows are contrasty while everything else is more muted and flat, like typical bleach bypass stuff. But overall, the images came out looking alright. Finally, I cross-processed it. First off, when you cross-process C41 film in E6, you usually need to overcompensate by about 2 stops somewhere, either by overexposing or overdeveloping. I chose to overexpose, so I rated the film at 100 and then developed it normally, and it came out looking like this. You get positives with this thick teal cast. It's not all that usable for normal projecting, but when you scan it in, a quick and dirty correction can correct out most of this teal. The only frames I didn't try to color correct are these foggy shots because I thought it added to the scene. But overall, you get worse color results compared to the normal C41 and kind of get unusable slides, so I don't really recommend it. Whether or not you like this film, it is cool to see an actual new color emulsion hit the market. What's not so cool is the terrible customer service stories regarding ORWO. I heard about a number of people placing orders directly with ORWO and then getting ghosted. People have also pre-ordered film from them only to see the film hit the shelves of retailers long before they receive their pre-orders. Now, I'm not a business person, I'm just an idiot with a useless art degree that ruins film on the internet, but maybe they shouldn't sell directly to customers. I understand that margins are better if you sell direct, but it also means you have to build up and invest in a customer service team and a small package shipping department when you could easily offload that overhead to distributors and retailers. And it's not like they don't have inroads to established retailers. I bought my film off of B&H. I don't know if there's a financial motivation behind it, but if there is, I don't think whatever extra money they're making is worth the damage to their reputation. I honestly put off shooting this film because of that reputation. If they play their cards right, they could be that other color film company not named Kodak, and even start to fill in the spaces that Fuji is slowly vacating. So with that in mind, it kind of puts this film in a weird spot. On one hand, it's nice to see new color film come out, but on the other hand, don't be dicks to the people buying it. All in all, if you're into the look, by all means go ahead and shoot it. If you like the idea of helping a company finance an R&D new color film, Adox and Harman are doing the same thing, and it's hard to recommend ORWO over them. Do whatever you want. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not your dad. Or am I?